From shy guy to ladies' man. Get the girl. Overcome approach anxiety. And how to attract the most beautiful women. By Rockstar Diary Women. And sex isn't going to save you in many ways. Our ability to have some control over our sex and love lives defines who we are as men. This is amply demonstrated by the toxic pickup community's ever-increasing popularity. Men from all over the world gather on internet forums, YouTube, and local lair groups in the hopes of bettering their lives. There is an endless amount of dedication and passion thrown at the prospect of improving one's relationship with women, and the desired outcome is fantasized about. Hopefully, I'll be the prick that bursts your dream-like bubble right now, before we get into the practical aspects of this book, because understanding this will bring you a lot more peace and happiness on your journey. So to speak, I took the fall for you and fell down the rabbit hole. Deep, it makes no difference how good you are with women. It will never complete you or grant you eternal happiness. You are the one in charge of that. I've been on this path for many years, starting from a clueless rock bottom and dragging myself through the social and sexual trenches to get to where I am now. Like many of the guys I coach, I immediately put all my eggs in the get good with hot girls basket, thinking that everything would be fine. I had spent the majority of my previous years devoted to this area. Seduction, so to speak, fucking the holy grail. What you must realize now is that it does pay off. It initially boosts your internal happiness and self-esteem. You begin to reap the benefits of your masculine ambition, self-confidence in your ability, and proficiency, which you can apply to other aspects of your life. All of a sudden, without purpose, happiness vanishes. I've always had a bit of an addictive personality that I have to keep in check. I would obsessively do something to the point where everything else would fall by the wayside. Personally, I was terrible with girls for the majority of my learning because I was following bad principles, having bad beliefs, tactics, and having bad mentors. When I finally found my feet on my own, I fell head over heels for leather. Seriously, I drowned myself in pussy for about 2 years, which is now somewhat of a post-orgasmic blur ... and I am still slowly weaning myself off of it to reach a healthier level. Nothing else was important. Approach, seduce, fuck. Approach, seduce, fuck. Approach, seduce, fuck. So forth and so on. I'd wake up in a flurry of confusion many mornings, laying next to my most recent conquest, or conquests in some cases. My ego felt raw and powerful, significant, instinctively driven, and as masculine as Conan the Barbarian standing victorious on top of the dragon he had just slayed, ready to move on to the next battle. Of course, this was coming from a weak place, as she was attempting to fill a hole by filling her hole. Funny, eh? I continued to fuck my way through a sexual haze of 100, then 200, then more women. I'll never reveal how many I stopped counting at, which quickly spiraled out of control. It's something I recall vividly. I awoke one morning to find a beautiful Swedish yoga instructor draped around me in a contortion-like fashion. This was my mecca, for which I had worked tirelessly. Way to go, Chris. I thought, that's it. You have arrived at your life's destination. Is it everything you hoped for? No, fuck, way. When I reached down to the side of the bed, gasping for water, all I got was a glass bottle of half-drunk beer ... Fuck it. Regardless, I sipped the warm beer, tossed her arm away, sat on the edge of the bed, and lit a cigarette. It was 4 p.m., and the hot sun was piercing through the towels I'd used to block the light from the windows. What the fuck had happened to the day? This was a common occurrence on a daily basis. I woke her up, put her in a taxi, and drove her to the airport to meet her family. My entire body of work, my entire passion. How do I feel after all my efforts to realize my fantasies? Unfulfilled, sad, and as if I'd been lied to. But who, exactly? Life Something happens to those who become overly accustomed to being in the company of beautiful women. Innocence is lost, and the rawness of reality hits home. The matrix of social brainwashing is magnified, and you realize that all those rom-coms, fairy tale endings, and what we are told we need to be happy are all complete nonsense. I was lying with a woman who had just let me crop dust her naked breasts and torso with my ejaculate, and she was about to marry her partner of 9 years in 3 days, and I'm that fucking guy. The unfortunate truth is that this is reality, at the very least. It seemed unlucky at the time. I was not in a good mental or physical state. I was a complete slave to my newfound desires at this point in my life, with no say in the matter. I was frail. I was high on sexual conquests, which consumed me on all levels. My daily interactions and intentions were influenced by it. I awoke, seduced, fucked, slept. In addition, there is drinking, sporadic drug use, and general unhealthy chaos. I do not, and will never, claim to be the guru-like poster boy for self-improvement because it simply does not exist. We're all just regular people here. I've never participated in self-improvement. Only self-destruction, which I believe is the only way to transcend from one state of being to another. Fortunately, my meditative practices never left me, even during the sexual blur phase, so I always had at least one baby toe on the ground, preventing me from taking a dangerous flight into the addictive abyss. So, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I want you to know, wherever you are in your journey, that the idea of generating eternal happiness through an external source, i.e., women and sexual gratification alone, does not exist. If I can burst your bubble of a perfectly perfect existence by sleeping with this many girls, or learning this many tricks, then I've accomplished my goal with this article. You will not be fulfilled as a man unless you have balance, moderation, and a defining purpose that is not based on your success with women. Always, purpose comes before women. Being great with women and fucking everyone attractive in sight will not guarantee you a happy life. You are more than just a seductress. So, have I completely changed and become a parish priest? No way. This morning, I was woken up by an 18-year-old Eastern European girl giving me a blowjob. And to be honest, I still find myself in these situations a few times a week, albeit from a healthier, more fulfilled place. I am generally aware enough to be somewhat in control of my desires. I'll never have complete control over something as powerful and significant as animalistic desire, so I'll make do with what I've got. I am overjoyed, because once the lust is gone, my mind becomes focused, and my passion and purpose in life take over. It has now become my primary governing system. I start with meditation, and then work on my purpose, whether it's coaching, acupuncture treatment for patients, meditation teaching, or DJing. Women will not be able to fix you on their own, but if you can use what you're learning to gain more experience with women while also focusing on your life's purpose and passions, you, my friend, will be a happy, healthy man. I have all of the sexual debauchery of previous years, with the exception that it is firmly rooted in who I am and what I stand for as a man. I hope this helps you avoid your erroneous expectations. How I went from being a lovable loser to dating 3 women every week. Happy New Year. I was in a room with a lot of people, friends, acquaintances, both men and women, as everyone celebrated. Kisses were exchanged, and hugs were given, and there I stood, completely alone. Although I didn't want to make people sick with how sad I was, I slapped a huge grin across my face, as I was so used to doing, to conceal the sadness and depression that ruled my life at the time. I rang in 2010 with a profound realization. I don't fucking care anymore. I had spent the previous years of my life under enormous stress trying to be 50 different people, depending on what I thought would make the individual like me the most. I'd completely forgotten who I was or who I might be. As a result, my immune system shut down, and I became very ill on a regular basis, with swollen glands in my neck. This is due to all of the frustration and anger I'm feeling towards life building up in my throat. Nothing is worth this pain, anxiety, depression, and constant loneliness. I realized, how could I expect any woman to be with me when I didn't even know what was? I'd reached rock bottom. I had two choices. Either end it all because nothing was worth continuing this agony, or try one more thing, stop giving a fuck, and be the guy with nothing to lose. This was the start of my life. I had been reborn. This was the first issue I had to deal with because I was terrified of what other people thought of me, and whether or not they liked me. How? I'm making a deal with myself. Be angry if I felt angry. Don't try to hide it. I granted myself permission to be a grumpy jerk. Be sad if I felt sad. Cry, sob, sulk, and externalize how I was feeling. I had bottled up so much crap for so long that when I started doing this the old Chris that everyone knew vanished. I wasn't the same forcefully smiling guy I used to be. I stopped attempting to persuade my naturally introverted self to be more outgoing. I stopped being accommodating to everyone, and instead chose to be completely selfish and prioritize my own needs. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and do all of this, because I am confident you are not as harmed as I was. Something happened as a result of allowing myself to feel and express myself. I lost friends I'd known for a long time. Why? Because I was no longer fulfilling my role in the group dynamic. I proceeded my seductive awakening. At this point, I'd also given up on all the pickup lines, routines, and canned material I'd been learning and practicing for a few years during my damaged phase. I got very few results, and when I decided to stop caring, that's when I stopped caring about getting girls to like me. I honestly thought I was hideously unattractive, both physically and as a man. I didn't feel like a man at all. I was terrified, like a little boy. So, along with all of my other safety nets, I threw away my pickup books, videos, and paraphernalia and gave up. Chris didn't deserve any more girls, and I didn't deserve them either. That's exactly how I felt. My seductive epiphany occurred one night while I was alone in Ireland. Sitting in the corner of a dark bar, I was alone, exuding a pissed-off vibe, but an incredibly free and pissed-off vibe. I didn't care who saw me, what they thought of me, or what they called me. I was contently irritated, and there was no pressure on me to do anything. On New Year's Eve, I let my pain out. As I previously stated, nothing was worth it. I noticed a girl standing opposite me with some friends, as I buried my lips in the deep brown whiskey in my glass. I didn't care about her beauty. I would totally fuck her. I remember thinking, but I don't even care anymore. This was coming from a place of defeat, giving up. I wasn't about to go out and try to impress her by doing something or adopting a certain behavior. That caused me pain and confusion in the past because the fruition of my efforts never paid off. And she was way too fucking pretty for me anyway. Over the course of about an hour, we made a lot of eye contact. It was in a matter-of-fact tone, with my questioning why the hell does she keep staring at me. Piss off. I went to the bathroom, returned to my table, and she strutted over. She smiled as she said hello. In a dazed tone, I said, "Hey." I was waiting for her to ask if she and her friends could sit at my table. This was not the case at all. She looked me in the eyes and asked if she could sit down. In a suspicious tone, I said yes. "Are you okay?" she inquired. "Yes," I replied flatly. "I'm all right. You don't appear to be it. My name is Kira." I shook her hand as she extended it to me. She stood up from across the table and came over to sit beside me on the couch. She persisted in questioning why I was there alone. Everything I said was matter of fact. I told her I didn't want to talk to anyone, which is why I'm sitting in the corner. The discussion moved at a breakneck pace. Before I knew it, I was genuinely interested in her as a person, and began to question her. Fast forward 2 hours, and her friends had abandoned her with me. I had thoroughly explained to her why I was the way I was, as well as the agreement I had made with myself. She, in turn, told me a lot about herself. I respected and admired many aspects of her, and I had forgotten she was a HB9 from nowhere. Chris, you have no idea how horny you're making me. I want to go home with you. I thought, are you fucking kidding me? I didn't do anything. I didn't have anything to prove. So I didn't. And guess what? She found it sexy, honest, strong, deep, and safe. She felt secure in my presence. That night, I was escorted home by the most attractive women I had ever met in my life. For the first time in about 2 years, we had sex. That remains the most valuable experience I have ever had. I'm not sure where I'd be or what I'd be doing if it hadn't been for that. It set off a journey into the unknown to discover what women truly find attractive in a man. I stayed on the path of letting it all go and remaining given up. What this did for me was allow me to never feel the need to try to attract a woman or persuade her to like me. I was who I was. I felt how I felt, and I expressed myself internally and carelessly. I started out being incredibly verbally direct, which I gradually refined as I met more women and questioned why they were with me. I started to smooth out the rough edges. At first, the ease of seduction was very irritating. You mean to tell me I've been lied to my entire life about what I need to do to get girls? I wondered. I assumed I had to impress her, to be her knight in shining armor, with the coolest clothes, the best lines and routines, the most money, the best job, and so on. I was moving through life like a scruff, with no money, no job, and yet I was effortlessly taking very beautiful women from socially handsome and high-value men. The internal freedom I had granted myself appeared to be intoxicating. Women wanted to be a part of it in whatever way they could. It's as if they can smell it. I was being checked out all the time. I'm talking about being seriously eye-fucked by girls who are holding hands with their boyfriends. It was intense, crazy, and slightly perplexing, but it was incredibly liberating. That was the internal situation at the time. In terms of practice, I needed to start showing up and taking action in my life. I began to do it, quite easily in fact, when I let it all go and realized I had nothing to prove. I began to throw myself into situations with reckless abandon. I stopped attempting to impress others. I gave up trying to be cool. If I didn't feel the need to be friendly, I stopped trying. I stopped trying to come up with the perfect response. I promised myself that I would never again compromise who I am to please others. I dedicated myself to myself, which meant I could later share myself with the world and truly give because I wanted to, rather than because I thought I would gain something in return. I didn't require anything. What's the harm in approaching women? This is essentially how I started spending time with a lot of women every week. Of course, I had to go out and approach a lot. This allowed me to fine-tune everything, which was previously incredibly uncalibrated. Take what you will from my above experience and draw your own conclusions about how it might relate to your current situation. Heading guys to that core is the most important aspect of being truly successful with women on a constant basis. And it is what I base a large portion of my coaching on. You must be present. You must talk to, interact with, and question women about how you make them feel. You must learn from your errors. And don't forget to check your ego at the door. Everything I do is for you, and everything you do is for me. Understand this. Magic. I turned to face her as she smiled. We locked eyes, and all I could see was her femininity. And all I could feel was her lips, which were already wrapped around the cusp of my penis in my head. She possessed fucking magic. I'd like to start by apologizing if the explanation of events is a little difficult to follow. It's extremely difficult for me to put magic into words. Magic is the intense energetic connection felt between two members of the opposite sex, one of whom is extremely polarizing to the other. I will do my best to convey the scene in detail, as well as the internal and external pattern and information. To me, sexual attraction and seduction are not based on techniques or lines, or even rules. It's magic, which comes when you're empty enough to let it in, even if it can be terrifying. I may veer off topic at times, but this is how my mind works when I'm trying to get everything out. She walked in, and her presence hit me like a brick wall before I even saw her. My energy rocketed up from the soles of my feet to my solar plexus, then hit my chest, aggressively shifting my breathing, and control vanished. This resulted in an increase in blood pressure and what some men might call anxiety. This feminine creature had completely overwhelmed me, uprooting any sense of grounding I had previously felt. The difference between me and the unaware man is that I realized this right away. I regained my presence immediately, and with a deep and controlled breath, I rerouted my energy back down to my core and pushed my awareness back out into the environment. I turned to face her as she smiled. We locked eyes, and all I could see was her femininity. And all I could feel was her lips, which were already wrapped around the cusp of my penis in my head. She possessed fucking magic. A petite blonde beauty with short hair, curvy and expressive. Vibrant and free, playful and sexy. She was dressed in a small flowery playsuit, with bright red lipstick rolled seductively along her amazingly plump lips. Her appearance was raw. I desired her in every way possible. All of this became clear to me within the first 3 seconds of seeing her approach my bar, where I was working. The decisions are being made by animal instinct in its purest form. I'm letting it take over and make the decisions. In every case, I'm learning to trust it more and more. It can be frightening at times to let it take control, but in its history, it has never led me astray. I wanted to devour her, but not in a Ted Bundy kind of way. A quick aside, this night in particular, I was completely exhausted and felt completely unprepared to deal with people in general. I am very introverted and internal, which makes for much more powerful seductions in many ways. If you're an introvert, own it. Don't try to change who you are for the sake of pleasing others. Similarly, if you are the polar opposite, be yourself. She was smiling from ear to ear by the time she arrived at the bar counter with her 2 friends and a few family members. She knew it was on, and we both felt it. I bombarded her with my desire for her, and she accepted in an instant. To me, it's an incredible phenomenon that I don't think I'll ever understand. The power of polarization and its effect on the opposite. This girl was there, strong and confident, acting the way she was used to acting. She exuded an air of authority. She was instantly given permission to become fully feminine the moment I let my desire for her hit her. I played the lion, and she played the swooning, blushing, fidgeting, an overwhelmed damsel. Women want our undeniable sexual energy. They want to feel the impact they have on us because it makes them feel truly special and loved as an entity. Simply telling a woman that she is beautiful is nothing compared to feeling her beauty and allowing yourself to lose your shit in that moment. This is the key. If you lose your shit without trying to hide it, it says a lot about the type of man you are. But most importantly, that you are authentic and comfortable with who you are as a man. It's intoxicating to be vulnerable. "Can I have a vodka lemon, please?" she asked, her face flushing uncontrollably. I held her gaze for another 2 seconds, penetrating her with a smirk, until she gigglingly looked down to the side, dispelling the sexual tension we were both sitting in. "I don't even know what you've said to me. All I can see is your lips," I finally say, putting my hand on top of hers and leaning into her ear. "I don't even know what you've said to me. All I can see is your lips." Again she responds with blushing and giggling, as she enters even more into playful shy little girl mode. She raised her head once more, and with a seductive squeeze on my hand, as if to say, "Keep going. This is amazing," she asked, "Can I have a vodka lemon, please?" I immediately shift into seduction mode, my body language and voice tone matching an energetic frequency that causes my penis to tingle. I respond in a slow, deep, and seductive tone. "And what else do you like?" Holding pressure with intense eye contact once more. When her mother starts blushing for her, you know you've turned a girl on. Nothing fancy is required after that. I simply spoke to her normally, with sexual intent and undertones, remaining sensual at all times. I learned about her, what she did, what she liked, and so on. A normal discussion. I never feel the need to impress or use any fancy techniques because I already know it's on. This is just filler, the middle section, before we are intimately consuming each other in the only way that is natural. After about 20 minutes, I ushered her, not with words, but with my finger, to the entrance point of my bar in a certain and confident manner. Locking her eyes hard and seductively, she stood up and slowly strutted towards me. The closer she got, the harder my dick became. When she got to me, I grabbed her by the waist and drew her in, saying, "You know, for the past 20 minutes all I've wanted to do is kiss you. Look at what you've done to me." At which point I gently took her hand in mine and slowly moved it down to my erect penis pressing out of my jeans. She snatched it and let out the most sexiest little gasp. When I asked her if she was a good kisser, she said maybe. We exchanged kisses. It was exhilarating. She abandoned her friends and family while she waited for me to finish work. She accompanied me home, easily, without a doubt, because she saw my true self. I opened the door for her. Why wouldn't she? Later that night, as we lay naked and exhausted, she told me something. She stated that she had never done anything like this before. When I asked her why she came home with me, she replied, "Because you didn't ask me to come home with you. You gave me a choice. You said you could come with me or not. There's no pressure. And you don't have to do anything you don't want to, but I would appreciate it if you did." She stated that she enjoyed it. It demonstrated my lack of neediness. It implies that I don't require you, but I desire you. I was also not aggressively pushy, but rather respectful of her boundaries while still taking action on a regular basis. We had 4 hours of some of the best sex I've ever had. Why? Because I allowed myself to be exposed. I let my instincts take over. I allowed myself to be terrified. And I made the deepest connection I could with another human being. I gave her an incredible experience. A taste of sexuality, love, and life. She gave me the same, and I learned so much from our brief meeting that I will be eternally grateful for her faith in me as a man. Magic. Expect nothing, and give everything. First, I locked my gaze on her, where my desire was instantly communicated through my entire presence. Through my entire desire, which I had allowed to take over, my gut instinct was in charge. She's all mine. Every last scrap of her. Nothing is expected. Giving your all. Last-minute sexual opposition. I left my friend's house with a pounding headache and a general sense of dread. I'm sure I'm coming down with something, I reasoned, as I stood outside on the busy pedestrian street. I needed to regain my balance because I was feeling dizzy. As I was taking a phone call, I noticed an absolutely adorable girl standing there, looking incredibly bored. I could tell by the unimpressed look on her face and the way she stood with her arms folded. Perhaps she was feeling a little irritated or frustrated. I hung up the phone, took a deep breath to become more aware of my wobbly, energetic core, and imagined her naked, on top of me, slowly riding me up and down in a controlled and sexy manner. This was all I required. I'd entered a seductive trance. I rolled my pelvis slightly forward, pumping my focus and awareness into my penis. My voice tone lowered, my chest engulfed with a strong, purposeful inhale. I could sense her softness, her texture. I made a move. I walked over slowly. First, I locked my gaze on her, where my desire was instantly communicated through my entire presence. Through my entire desire, which I had allowed to take over, my gut instinct was in charge. She's all mine. Every last scrap of her. It could be worse, I said slowly and growlingly. She changed states in an instant. She felt me and responded as if someone had just jolted her awake, jolting her out of her head and off her autopilot. She immediately adjusted her posture and demeanor to that of a more upbeat social girl. What could be worse? She chuckled, ignoring her query. "My name is Chris," I say, extending my hand with a smirk. "Maria," she said, slipping her silken hand into mine. I refused to let go. Not even once. I maintained eye contact with her while thinking in my head, "You know what's going to happen, don't you, Maria?" The tension in silence grew for a few seconds. She blushed, averted her gaze, and we both began to laugh softly. This stage of a conversation is one of my favorites. This is mutual comprehension. I understand what's going on. She understands what's going on. And in this case, we were consciously communicating our understanding through laughter. Do you always have this effect on girls? She asked, trying to throw my state, but hoping deep down that I am strong enough for her. That was cute, I said, completely authentically. I thought it was cute. Every single word she said made me want to squeeze her ... so I did. I drew her in with my other hand and began to embrace her in the middle of the street. Tell me something, I said as I ushered. She talked about herself for a while, telling me her story, as people are wont to do. We hugged for the duration of her story in broad daylight on a busy street. When she was finished, I drew back, but she remained draped around me. You're a hottie, aren't you? She laughed. I moved in close to kiss her. She cocked her head, and it landed on her cheek. She became overwhelmed with giggles and sexual energy, unsure of how to deal with it. Relax. Wow, this is crazy. I've only just met you. I literally know nothing about. I exclaimed. I had to cut her off, using my lips. We kissed for a few minutes after that, as in two people who have already had a sexual encounter. Initially intense ... then slowing down, lightly pecking, maintaining eye contact, and smiling at each other with their foreheads touching. I was in love at the time. Now I know you, I joked, slapping her bum. She burst out laughing and shook her head. I don't know what to say. This is insane. I came out to get away from my bitchy roommate. And this happens. You should go outside more often, I retorted, smirking. I explained that I was leaving to get food and then go home to relax for the rest of the day because I was feeling crappy. I handed over my phone to her. There are no words. In every case, just action is taken. She took it, and without a response, she entered her number as I kissed her on the left shoulder. A gentle bite thrown in for good measure. She handed me the phone back and asked what I was going to do later. I'm staying in tonight. Please call. She shook her head and said, maybe, but probably not. That's cool, I said. I kissed her again, made brief eye contact, turned, and walked away. About 30 minutes later, she messaged me on my phone, and the usual text-like conversation began. I don't like to text her too much before I've been intimate with her for a variety of reasons. The most important of which is that because I'm not there with her, she can't feel my presence, which means she's free to associate whatever associations she wants with my words. When I have sex with a girl, who I am and what I stand for as a man come through, I never try to persuade a woman to call for sex. I never attempt to have sex with anyone. Trying means doing something with the intention of failing. I assume that I will have sex with the woman 100% of the time. It is a given. It will happen at some point regardless, so there is no need to rush or force anything. It's the only natural result of my being a polarizing masculine individual. The key here is that the proceeding is simply a belief that I choose to have. It's a belief that serves me, my purpose, and directs me toward my successful self. You have the ability to consciously choose any beliefs you want. So why choose the negative version, which only serves to limit your life experience? With this belief, there is never any desirability or neediness for sex. I'm aware that I can have sex whenever I want. Sex is no longer a privilege bestowed upon me by every magnificent holder of the vagina. I am the origin of sex. I encourage sex. I am the result of a sexual encounter. I'm sex. Women, in many cases, become irritated by my seductive maneuverings. It's become a natural reaction for me. It perplexes and frustrates them, but it increases their desire to have sex with you on a whole new level. They wonder, why isn't this guy trying to get me? Why isn't he trying to persuade me to have sex with him? Why is he not pursuing me? I don't even try. Ever. I simply act in the moment, and express myself authentically through descriptive statements or physical action. That's your only job, to become what you feel. I already know I'm great with women. This is something I choose to believe. But right now, the girl I've just started talking to doesn't. However, they are aware of something that distinguishes me from other men out there. Something powerful. Not even mentally, but physically. He's telling me about a chimpanzee riding on a Segway. but my vagina is getting really wet. What's going on? You undercut her logical brain and stimulate her innate animalistic desires by using the power of your desire and instinct. At our core, we are animals. We simply have a massive brain, which explains why we aren't all humping in the streets. Okay, enough with the public humping. I've gotten off track. Let's get back on track. She knocked on my door at 9:30 p.m. after some texting and reassurance that she doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to. I yelled at her to let herself in, and she did. I made her feel completely at ease in my presence. I was already lying in my bed, watching a movie, and she was simply joining in ... for the time being. She sat down beside me on the bed in a stiff manner. I could tell she was uneasy because she suddenly made me feel it. Be cautious. I took action to correct this. I stood up and took one of my t-shirts from the closet and tossed it to her. She was dressed inappropriately for bed, so I took charge and fixed it for her, because I'm a good man who is always looking for ways to add to and increase her comfort. I sat back down, grabbed her shoulders, moved her, realigning her pillows, and placed her head on my chest. Chill out, relax, and enjoy this, I advised. Men, take the leadership. In every situation, take the lead. She wanted to be lying on me and cuddling, but she didn't know how to do so in this new, unexpected dynamic. She is out of her element. You must guide a woman if you invite her into your world. Most women aren't used to or familiar with this level of masculine presence, so they'll tread carefully. We started kissing soon after we got comfortable. I stroked her softly at first, then firmly. We started getting more physical, until she stopped. She then began to tell me about her previous relationship issues as well as what had just happened. Her mood shifted quickly, and she became flustered and anxious, repeating, I'm sorry. This is a fairly common occurrence. Her ever-helpful brain stepped in for a logical intervention. I immediately moved away from her, but kept my arm on her. Why are you apologizing? Sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. What we do tonight is completely unimportant. I've already told you that you don't have to do anything you don't want to. There is no pressure. Just relax and sleep or something along those lines. She then began a mental dialogue with herself, attempting to justify her decisions based on the circumstances. Most men sabotage themselves here by trying. They are so desperate for the sex that they begin to join in on the conversation she is having with herself, attempting to sway her in the direction of his penis. This is stupid and, in most cases, a complete waste of time, to the point where you might never sleep with this woman again. You will have annihilated the dynamic. Trying to take is not appealing. Do not try to entertain or resolve her internal conflicts. They belong to her, not to you. Be mindful of her emotional state. They also have no basis in reality, so it's all for naught. What I do ... is the same as I always do and have done since the beginning of the interaction. I give her the floor. I give her no logical advice. I'm not interested in having sex with logic. I want to have sexual relations with instinct. Her instinct is still on ... just let's give the logic some time to sort itself out. We are, once again, animals. I sat back and watched the movie, still standing tall. It's always on in my head. I know that once I'm aroused, she has no choice but to feel my energy. After a few more I'm sorries, I reposition her head on my chest. I notice her breathing changing. I could feel her horniness and desire building up quickly. It was incredibly intense. My heart rate increased. Her breath was becoming heavier on my sternum. She was trying so hard to keep it under control. So, what did I do? I listened to her body and acted without hesitation in the heat of the moment. There is no pondering. Just take action. I cupped her hand and moved it slowly, placing it on my hard dick. She started to stimulate it. I started stimulating her. We had some sex. Obviously, naturally, it was incredible. She told me both during and after that she had never orgasmed like that before in her life. This statement from her elicits a wide range of emotions in me, chief among them frustration and rage at 21st century masculinity. Every woman should be able to feel these emotions from men. Every man should be concerned with his sexual development. If you offer and give greatness to a woman, you will receive greatness in return. She felt new and stronger sensations, more awe-inspiring climaxes. She was ecstatic, and her mood was light and jovial. She was stunningly feminine. I love how I was able to provide her with a new and wonderful experience, and how she, in turn, was able to provide me with a new and wonderful experience. It would never have happened if I had been desperate and tried to force it. She would have left frustrated, upset, and possibly embarrassed, not wanting to see me again. Rather, I took action. I was respectful of her boundaries, but I was consistent in my actions, allowing her to make her own decisions about what she wants or does not want. Men, in most cases, make up the woman's boundaries in their heads before even putting them to the test. These beliefs, such as she doesn't want me to touch her there, are extremely disrespectful to all women. You're depriving them of a well-deserved sexual, intimate, and loving experience. Let us not be so conceited. Put her to the test. Allow her to set them. Then you must respect them. Recognize that your negative beliefs are getting in your way. You have a manly demeanor. Naturally, you're fantastic with women. Keep in mind how little I had to say in our first meeting. I literally said very little. There was no logic, just simple words to draw herself out, allowing her to express herself in a safe and sexy manner. Seduction is simple. Go out there and give women an amazing experience instead of just taking. This is one of the most important secrets of being amazing with women.